Welcome to VersAccounts. In this session, we'll go through one of the most important parts of your business, the ability to take an order from a customer and to ship the goods successfully in line with the expectations you set. Specifically, we'll begin by going through a quotation process, how to turn that into a sales order. We'll discover that we don't have the materials that we need in the warehouse, so we'll actually create a back order to have the goods shipped to our warehouse, and finally we'll ship the goods on time to our customer. We'll deal with the billing and the payment, and the billing and payments from our vendors separately in a different session. Often during the sales process you'll enter a sales order directly. Sometimes, however, a customer prefers a quote first, so they can consider the items that you can ship, when you can ship them, and the price and so on before they make a final decision. If they do this, you can enter a quote directly. Begin by entering the first few letters of the customer's name, and upon selection the quote will auto-populate with things like the validity date of the quote, or the ship to information, or variance reference information that you can enter, the currency, and the terms may even be different from the standard terms that you have with that customer, and you can change them at this point. Once you're comfortable, select auto quote and you can move to the next screen, and you can then begin to enter the individual line items that we're going to make up the quote. You begin by typing in the first few characters of the part that you're after, and the system auto populates. Down in the bottom left we can see how many we have in stock at the Boston facility, and we're now going to enter the quantity that we actually want to ship as part of this sales order, and you can see that we've deliberately added an amount that is in excess of the available quantity. That's deliberate for this exercise. We can put a quote in, we can put a quoted price in there. That price can be automatically generated, but we're making one up on the fly here. And then we can put in a delivery date, and if we wanted to, a lead time, but there's no lead time today because we're going to try and ship this on the same day. As you can see, just as a reminder, the amount that we're shipping is greater than the amount that we have in stock. So what we're going to do now is just move down the rest of the quote. We're not going to change the tax situation, and we're going to add the quote item at this point. What we're also going to do, just for completeness, is add a second line item. Again, we begin by adding the first few characters of the amount we're going to do. We see that we've got 5 in stock this time, and for the purposes of this exercise we're actually just going to ship the number that we've got, a slightly lower price, today's date, no lead time once again, and we'll add that line item also. So we'll scroll up, give the line items one last check, move up to the header, give that a last check too. Then we just scroll to the bottom, click on done, and the quote is done and saved in the system. We then move up to the top, we see a few options, and the first of these is we're going to print this out. If you click on print, you can actually see a very nicely laid out form which you can send as a PDF to the customer, or you can print out. You can put your logo in. The entire format can be changed. This is a fairly standard layout, and then once you're comfortable you can email it to your customer. Something that's worth pointing out is that we've got a feature in VersAccounts called Clone Quote, and that's where you use the same line items in quotes to customers regularly. It could be the same customer or a different one, and it acts like a template and saves you having to set the quote up from scratch each time. And when you're ready, simply turn the quote into an order by clicking on Create Sales Order. So we can check that the sales order has been populated from the quote, including all the header information. We can scroll down, look at the line items, noting that the quantity shortfall. We can check the total and then scroll down to the bottom. So once we're at the bottom of the sales order, there's a number of things we can do. Like with a quote, we can print it off, or we can email it to the customer, or we could just take a general view of it internally. But before we can ship, there's something else we have to do. Remember that we didn't have enough inventory in stock to be able to fulfill the first line item. And so what we're going to do is utilize a feature in VersAccounts that allows you on the back of this sales order to create a purchase order to fulfill the back order. We're going to select the guys down at Mattress People. They've already told us that they've got the stuff in stock, can ship it today. And we're going to convert this sales order into a purchase order. There's a consistent look and feel. It looks very like the sales order on the sales side. And we can check the header information, including the name of the supplier and the order date. Just make sure that it goes to the right warehouse, of course. And then we can drop down to the line items. Now this is quite interesting. Notice that by default, the purchase order populates with the entire value of the sales order. This is so that if we wanted to, we could drop ship it directly to the customer. However, in this case, we want to bring the things to our own warehouse to inspect them, give them the once over, and then deliver them in person later today. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete the second line because we already have that in stock. And as far as the first line is concerned, we recall we were only 4 short. So instead of ordering the total amount, which we could do and keep the stock that we have, we're going to change it to 4, and we're going to change the price to the $42.50 that Mattress People are going to charge us, and then we're going to update the order line. What that does is it creates us a completely new order. We're going to select the tax on a no tax basis, and at that point we're done. So we can check the purchase order, scroll back down actually. One of the things that we can do now is print. We can email. So let's have a print, quick look at the print. Very similar in many ways to the sales quote and the sales order, very nicely laid out. One thing to note is that the purchase order actually only has the quantity on it, which is the amount that we need to fulfill the order. That was something we made a decision about a couple of seconds ago. So during the middle of the afternoon, the guys from Mattress People turn up. We can go into logistics, into new receipt, and by selecting Mattress People and the correct warehouse, we can generate the receipt by simply checking the amount that we're receiving, clicking on the receive button, then entering the receipt date, and finally posting the receipt into inventory. So now we go back to the sales side and we generate an open order list. This is to allow us to just confirm before we do the shipment that we've got what we need. We can scroll down the report to Skyline Hotel and click on view, and you'll see when the open order opens up and we scroll down, we can see we now have sufficient quantity in inventory to meet the demand of this order. Next we go to logistics and select open sales orders, and at this point we're going to perform a really important function, which is allocating the inventory in stock against the sales order. We've already promised the goods to the customer, we've made sure that the inventory is in stock, but there's nothing more frustrating than having inventory and then finding it allocated to a different sales order. So the process here is that you bring the open sales orders up, you select the one that you need, and you simply click on allocate all. That's it. It's now allocated. As a means of an additional check, we can move over to the plus symbol on the left hand side, and that allows us to expand and just check that the inventory has indeed been allocated against the appropriate line items. So the final step is to ship the order. So click on view order. The order will populate on the screen. You can scroll down and check everything. Now VersAccounts does come with full pick, pack, ship capability, but in this simple example we're just going to assume the inventory is to hand. So you'd simply click on ship order. You can check the details including the customer and the ship to address, and then select to ship all available items. You'd put a tracking number in if that was appropriate. You'd be able to put the ship date in, and then the final point, The invoice is normally by default automatically generated, but we're going to show you that in a separate session. So we're going to unclick that for now, and we're going to finish by posting the shipment, and that completes the process. So thanks for your attention while we raised a sales quote, turned it into a sales order, created a purchase order to fulfill the inventory requirement, received into inventory, allocated it to the sales order, and shipped it.